Hello guys and welcome to the part 4 of the Wordle game in Pygame. Part 4 and hopefully the last part that we're going to be coding, okay? So up until this point we have created all the animations. We have created almost the whole game. Okay, so the game is almost ready. So we have that row animation that shakes it when we don't have enough letters. We have the flipping animation that shows the color of the letters. And we have this popping up animation every time we type in a letter. Okay, so right now if I type in the right words, it just resets. So we need to stop that. But before we do that, we need to have all the writings as well. So whenever you win or you lose, it shows some text on the screen. For that, let's just get into creating the next class that we're gonna have in here, which is gonna be the UI element class. This class is going to handle all the text that we're gonna be showing on the screen. And I made it quite nice as well on my game, so there's like a fade in and a fade out animation. Don't know if you guys saw that. Let me quickly show you here. So this is the actual game, the ready code. So if I don't type in enough letters, I press, you see, there's this nice fade in and fade out animation. Okay. At the end in here also appears when you guess the right words, or if you don't guess the right words, then the animation here, it's like a fade in and fade out. So I'm going to show you how to do this fade in and fade out animation. That is going to be functions inside of this class of the UI element. Okay, so let's get started on this. We're going to create a class called UI element, or just UI element actually, and we have a constructor in here. In this constructor we'll take a few parameters for the x and y coordinates of the text that we want to show. We also need the actual text that we're showing, a color for it, and a font size, which I'm going to just default this to 40. And then again, I'm just going to create all the instance variables in here. So self.y, self.x, self.y equals x and y, self.text equals text, self.color equals color. I feel like the color is always, let me just give some space in here. The color is always white as well, but we'll see. And self.font size equals font size. We also gonna need a couple extra variables in here for the alpha, which is gonna help us with the fade in and the fade out. So we're gonna start that at 0. And then we're going to also create a font variable. I'm just gonna call this already in here, but we're gonna be creating this function just now. So we're gonna create that create font. Okay, and this is gonna be very similar to what we've done in here. Okay, I just wanted to make it consistent. That's why I make another create font function in here. So we're gonna create a font in Pygame like we've done before. So pygame.font.sysfont. I'm gonna just use consolas. I like consolas, and the self.font size. And then we're going to create a original surface, okay, which is a render. So we're gonna render that text. So font.render, self.text, true, and self.color. And then we have the text surface is equals to the original dot copy. So we're gonna make a copy of this surface. It will make sense later on, but basically we create a render surface and then we're just gonna create a copy of it. And then we're going to also create a alpha surface. This alpha surface is gonna handle the alpha, basically the fade in and fade out. Okay, so pygame dot surface self.text surface dot get size and the pygame dot src alpha. Yeah, that's just another parameter in there. To be honest, this alpha things, I'm not really sure too much how it works. I just read the documentation in Pygame and I saw that this works. So we're just adding this other arguments into the surface in here to be able to do the alpha, to decrease the alpha and increase the alpha on the color of the surface. Okay, so let's just roll with this for now. So just remember this surface is used to adjust the alpha of the text surface. Okay, so just using to adjust the alpha of this copy here, and then we still have the original over here. Okay, so the next function here is just a simple draw function that we need to draw into the screen. We'll take the text surface and we're going to make a copy again of that original so we don't modify the original. And then we'll take that alpha surface. Wait, alpha. Oh, I forgot the L in here. There we go. Alpha surface. And we're gonna fill that with a color. So we're gonna fill that with 255, 255, 255, and then the self.alpha. I'm not using the white. I'm not using this white variable because we need to add this alpha in here. So a color is composed by red, green, blue, and then the fourth argument is the alpha. Okay, and then this alpha is also between 0 and 255, meaning 0 is fully transparent and 255 is fully shown, or what is the opposite of transparent? Visible, I guess. And okay, so the next thing in here is to get that text surface. Whoops. Get the text surface and blit the alpha surface at 0, 0. And then we're going to have a special flag of pygame dot blend underscore RGBA underscore mode. Okay, so again, this is what I just read on the Pygame documentation. I think I've looked for some tutorials on how to do this blend and how to do this alpha thing. So we need to add this special flag in here to blend the RGBA. So it's red, green, blue, and alpha RGBA into the surface. Okay, and now we just take that string and we blit the self.text surface into the X and Y coordinates. Okay, so this is the drop function ready. Now we have another two functions in here which is going to handle the fade in and the fade out of the text. Okay, so let's just crack on those. So fade in. Sorry, let's do the fade out first. And again, this is just working with alpha and doing a little bit of math to blitz to increase the fade in and fade out. So you increase the alpha and decrease the alpha from the text to make it appear there's like a fade in and fade out. Okay, so you just increase and decrease this alpha variable. Okay, so first thing we need to do here is to get the alpha. We need to set this alpha. We need to take the maximum between alpha minus 10 and 0. So again, the max function will return the highest number between alpha minus 10 and 0. So we don't go below 0 because this alpha here it can only go between 0 and 255. So if we go below 0, then it will give you an error basically. So that's why we use this max function. And then we do self.text surface is equals to, again, we're just gonna copy this. I'm just doing a lot of copies just to make sure that we don't mess up with the original surface. Okay, we don't want to do that. We copy, so we don't modify the original surface, and then we do alpha surface dot fill, and then we have 255, 255, 255, which is white for the color, and we do self dot alpha, and then we take that text surface and then we just split the alpha surface into that text surface, okay, into this text surface here. Oh, sorry, into this text surface, which is a copy as well. And then we split that at 0 and 0. And again, we're going to be using this special flag in here, so I'm just going to copy and paste special flag. So we're going to just copy this function and we're going to paste it in here. We're going to change that fade out to fade in. And the only change we need to do is in here. We need to get, instead of the maximum, we need to get the minimum of alpha plus 10 and 255. So whenever the alpha goes over 255, we take the minimum, which is 255. Okay, so every time this is going to be on the main loops as well, fade in and fade out. And then every time we go through this, we're increasing 10 to the alpha, and it just keeps increasing until we get to 255. And in this case, we keep decreasing until we go to 0. I really hope this makes sense. We're doing a lot of kind of copying the code in here, just copying the surface. It's just to make sure that we don't mess up with the original surface, okay? Because that's the one that we're blitzing at the beginning here. So I don't want to mess up with that. I think I done some tests without copying it, and it was just not working properly. It was not working nicely, the fade in and fade out. That's why I just do a lot of copies in there, just to make sure. So this should be it for this UI element class. We're going to go back to the main file in here, and at the top here in a constructor, we need to create a variable in there, which is for self dot letters letters text basically, which is a UI element at 170, and this one is going to be the not enough letters, okay, and the color is white. So to make this appear and disappear whenever there's not enough letters, obviously we have to go into the new function first, and we're going to create a variable here called timer. So we're going to be a timer that is going to be shown this screen. So it's going to fade in, it's going to show for, I don't know, 10 seconds, even less, 5 seconds, and then it's going to fade out. So that's what this timer is going to handle. Okay, so we start this timer at 0, and then we go down to the draw function. Okay, and now this is going to display the not enough letters text. Okay, so if self dot not enough letters, so if that is true, because we change that in here whenever there's not enough letters, if that's true, we do self dot timer. This is pretty straightforward basically. The self dot timer plus equals 1, so we just increase the timer by 1, and then we do self dot letters text dot fade in. So we call that fade in text. Okay, so increase the timer, and then we do the fade in. So it's gonna gradually fade in that text. And then we do if the self dot timer, let's say, is greater than 90. That is actually, so we are running 60 frames per second. So that is about a second and a half, right? 90. So 60 plus 30, yeah, about second and a half. You can put longer if you want. So just remember, if you put 60 in here, we're running at 60 frames per second, so that is basically 1 second. So I'm just putting a little bit more than a second. If that goes higher than 90, then we do self not enough letters. We turn that back into false, and then we reset the timer back to 0. Okay, so then if this is not true, so if this is false, whenever we go in here, we do the else, and we call that letters text dot fade out. Okay, so basically whenever you initialize that any element, any object of this element, the alpha is 0. Okay, so it's not going to be showing in this screen. And then if this turns to true, we start the timer, we fade in the text. Once it passed 1 second and a half, we turn this back to false. And then this is not going to be true anymore. It's going to call this part of the function, and it's going to fade out the text. Okay, so the next thing in here is just to actually draw that text into the screen. Okay, let's test this, see if it works. Press enter. There we go. It shows the text. Type in not enough letters. Press enter. Not enough letters. And the row shaking. Nice. So I think the next thing to do now is to add the end screen function, which will handle the end screen. So every time if you guess the word right, then it will go to an end screen, and we need to hold it in there. So right now, if I just type in the right words, you show me it's correct, and it just starts a new game. So we want to freeze it at that end screen, and we want to show fade in and fade out that text saying we got the right, or if we run out of guesses, we got it wrong, and it shows the words that we're supposed to guess. So let's just go at the end of everything. After, so there's the event function. After that event function, we're going to come back in here, outside of the function, obviously, and we're going to define a function called end screen. Okay, and then we're just going to create a variable called play again equals to UI element, and this coordinates again. I just did some try and error. I'm just hard coding this coordinates in the screen, and the text in here is going to be press enter to play again, and it's going to be white. Oh, and then we're going to change that font size to 30. It's going to be a little bit smaller. Now we just need to create a very small event in here. So for event in pygame.event.get, because we're gonna create this while true, and it's gonna get us stuck into this end screen. So we still need to loop through the events and check if the player or if the user is clicking on the X button, for example. Okay, so we need to still check for that, because otherwise it's gonna crash. So we just check for the event type equals to pygame.quit. If that's true, we just quit with the code 0. And we also need to check for the enter key. So press enter to play again. So we need to check whether the player is pressing the return key, the enter key, to play again. So we're gonna check for pygame dot key down, and the event dot key is equals to pygame dot k return, and then in here we just return. So you can do a return statement like that in here, so that will return this whole function, and then it's not going to execute any of the codes after this, basically. So just before we create the text, so now we're just going to type in all the functions. We're going to call the functions to draw and then to display the text. Before we do that, we're just going to create this the text, the end screen text, basically, in here. So do you remember we made these functions here? So if the text is equals to the word, then we win. Sorry, if it's not equals to the word, we lose. So we need to send the message that the player lost. Otherwise, we send the message that the player win. So in the first one in here, we're going to create this variable called end screen text. That's going to be equals to UI element at 100 next and index and 700 on the Y. The text is going to be a F string saying the word was and whoops self.word. Okay, so the player lost. So we're just displaying the words to the player, and that's gonna be just white. And in here, if the player win, we would do the same thing. So we're just gonna change the end screen text is a UI element at the same coordinate. So, but instead of showing the words like this, we're going to do you. Whoops, it needs to be a string. You guessed right, and it's a white font. And then we have to, after we call this self.playing equals false, because it means something happened here, we either lost or we won, we need to call the end screen in here. Okay, and then in here we're going to be stuck inside of this loop until we do an action. We either close the window or we press return key or the enter key to play again, and that will return this function, return with nothing. And then we're just gonna break out of this for loop here. Okay, we don't really want to just return the function. I guess you could, but you're just gonna break out of that so we don't increase this row in here. Okay, then it's gonna end and we're gonna start a new game basically. Now the last thing we need to do in here is after the event we're gonna call the screen, gonna fill that with a background color. So again, we just need to fill up with the background color and just draw the tiles again. So we're just gonna draw tiles, and then we draw. So the text we do a fade in. So we want it to fade in basically, and then we draw it into the screen. Okay, and then we do the same thing for this play again button. So we wanted to show that play again dot fade in, and then play again dot draw self dot screen, and then we just flip it. Pygame dot display dot flip. Okay, let's quickly test this. I'm gonna run. I know the word is speed, so I'm just gonna type that in there. There we go. We get frozen in this end screen. You guessed right. So the only two options in here is either to close the window and quit the game, or if I press enter, it resets. Okay, I'm just gonna type in random stuff in here so we lose. So we go to the end. Okay, let's go. One more. Okay, so we lost. We didn't guess the words, and it shows us the word was speed. And press enter to play again. And you can restart and start a new game. And I guess the only thing that is missing now is to do to randomize that word. So right now we just have a hard-coded word in here. You can do that if you want, but I guess if you are playing, it's not fun. Maybe you can ask someone else to input a word in there and you can try it. But the idea is to randomize that word. So I'm just gonna copy this words list that I have in here. Again, this is a words list. I just went on Google and I searched for words lists. I can't remember, like Wordle words list or something like that. It's not very long, or maybe I took it from another video. I can't remember, to be honest. It's not very long. There's 2,315 words in here, all of them with 5-letter words and words that actually exists. Okay, So the link for this for my GitHub is down in the description, so you can go there, you can grab this word list and just follow this part of the tutorial, or you can just go on Google, just search for words list, or you can create your own words list. It's just a text file. Okay, so enough of that. Let's just code our last function of today, which is going to be right here at the top. We're going to come in here right after the constructor. We're going to define a function here which will create the words not list. Okay, and we're just going to do a very simple file handling here. So with open and then the words.txt as read mode and as the variable file, we'll take we need to create a variable actually. Yeah, we're gonna create this variable in here. So self.words list, we're just gonna hold that list. We just do file.read. So we're gonna read that all the words inside of that words list, and also we're going to split lines. Okay, that means it's going to create a list with all that words, all those words in here. We're going to just split them by line. So every word is going to be an element in this words list. Okay. And then instead of hard coding the words in here in the self.words, you just do a random dot choice and you pass in your words list in there. And don't forget to transform that into an upper, because the words in here, they're all lowercase, but we want to check against uppercase. If you don't do this, your code is not going to work, okay? Because you're typing in uppercase letters and you're comparing with lowercase letters, it's never going to be the same, okay? So just don't forget to do this. And then we have to just call this function. So let's call this function right here, self.create words list. So in the constructor of the game, right off the bat, we just create that words list. And with this, I will conclude this Wordle tutorial. Okay, so just to prove to you that this is going to be random, I'm just going to print the self.word in here so we can see what is the words, because there's a lot of words there that I don't know, I think. Okay, so the word now is dicey. Okay, so let's start with speed, for example. Okay, so in dicey there's an E. Okay, so you see the other E that I input in here, it's not yellow because there's only one E on the word. And there's a D as well. So let's just go, we know it's dicey, I'm just gonna put that, and it's all green. We guessed right. Let's try another one. So next one, idiot. That's a fun one. Idiot. Okay, you guessed right. Straight away. Try another one. Lichen? I don't even know what that means, to be honest. But yeah, you get the point, right? So it's just picking a word from this massive words list here. Okay, guys. And with that, I will conclude this tutorial here. I hope you liked it. And if you don't understand some of it, just leave a comment down below. I'm gonna leave the link for my GitHub where there is this code, this complete code that we just created in here. Should be in there. You can download that, you can have a look on it. If you don't understand something, just write down comments below and I will try my best to explain again to you. Okay? And alright, stay safe guys, and I'll see you on the next tutorial. Bye bye, see you later.